Secretary Kennedy, you were one of the most outspoken critics of the official public health narrative that prevailed during the COVID years. And you were quickly branded by the vested interests and the mainstream media here in America, and the Brazilian mainstream media largely regurgitates and basically toe their line in calling you an anti-vaxxer. I'm sure you've answered that question 1,000 times before, but at least for the Brazilian audience that might be witnessing your words for the first time, how would you respond to that? And do you feel vindicated from all of the reversals in how we actually evaluated the nature and the impact of the COVID pandemic around the world?
I've never been anti-vaccine, but applying that, and I had all my children vaccinated. I received all my vaccines. But applying that pejorative to me of anti-vaccine is a way of marginalizing or vilifying me and of silencing me and saying, well, you don't have to listen to him because he's anti-vax. And that same pejorative is applied to almost anybody who criticizes vaccine mandates. That doesn't make them anti-vaccine. Or who criticized the COVID response. And the COVID response was I would say, appalling.
How so?
Well, because it was, I think it's clear today that the emergency was used as a way of clamping down totalitarian controls and of shifting wealth upward. The lockdowns, were the biggest transfer in wealth in human history. Trillions, tens of trillions of dollars in wealth are shifted from the poor around the world to large corporations, to wealthy people. And then we saw governments around the world ending democratic rights and constitutional rights, and they've never recovered in most cases. Europe is a place where there's no freedom of speech, where they're arresting people or criticizing government policies and putting them in jail. So, that's something that nobody would have believed 10 years ago, but it became a reality during COVID. And then the medical policies in COVID were a departure from the standard policies for pandemic controls that were published by WHO, by the European Medical Agency, by CDC, NIH, and HHS. We didn't do what we were supposed to do, which is, never lock down a society for a respiratory illness. You isolate the sick, you protect the vulnerable, but you keep society moving, and the lockdowns killed probably far, far more people than COVID.
Do you think the disproportionate death tolls in Brazil and the U.S. reflect these failed policies and these totalitarian impulses you've just described, or underlying health conditions that were already there of these two very sick societies that we've been mentioning?
I think both things are true, and, it's going to be hard. One of the most frustrating parts about the pandemic response was the information chaos. We were not told the truth about things, and the information tabulating and collection and analytical systems were designed to fail. And so it's going to be hard ever really parsing out what caused disproportionate deaths in some countries. I'll say this, that the lower vaccinated countries in the world tended to have the lowest death tolls. And I'll give you an example. And again, you don't know because of the information chaos and the different collection systems and data in different countries. But in Haiti, the death rate from COVID was about 14 people per million population. And Haiti had a vaccination rate of about 1.3%. Very few people got vaccinated, and yet there does not seem to have been a COVID pandemic in Haiti. Nigeria had a death rate from COVID of 14 per million population. In our country, the death rate was over 3,000 people per million population. So we are 200 times the death rate of countries that were essentially unvaccinated.
America, 4.2% of the global population, right, suffered over 1.1 million COVID deaths,
We had
representing.
about 16% of the COVID deaths.
That's it. That's it. 16%.
And we have, as you say, around 4% of the world's population. So we did worse than any country in the world. Brazil was close.
Was
behind
close,
us.
right? We were talking about 12% of global COVID-19 deaths, while making up only 2.7% of the world's population. So similar, right?